So in the recent years, platforms have started to make a comeback into the mainstream, with games like Crash Bandicoot striking up popularity on platforms like the PlayStation 4, and then obviously a majority of the games from the Nintendo Switch. Now that's all good and dandy that a majority of these games are coming back, but most of them are exclusive to Nintendo and Sony. So what the hell are Microsoft bringing back? Fucking Blinks? Voodoo Vince? What else is there? Talk? I mean, that wasn't even released in the UK, but still, that's something. Well, instead, Microsoft chose to publish a game called Super Lucky's Tale, developed by the Playful Corporation. It's a platformer where you play as a little fox called Lucky, and he's fucking adorable. A fun little fact as well though, Super Lucky's Tale could actually be considered a sequel, as the first time Lucky ever appeared in his own game was actually a VR exclusive game called Lucky's Tale, which sounds really weird for a VR title, but who knows, maybe we'll look into that one in the future. The story for Super Lucky's Tale is pretty basic. The premise sets up with Lucky's sister returning home with a book called The Book of Ages. However, upon crashing her plane and returning home, it appears a group of villainous cats followed her, and they're known as the Kitty Litter. Oh, I get it. It's a cat pun. It's not that funny. So during all the chaos, the Book of Ages decides to open up, sucking up all of the kitty litter as well as Lucky, trapping you all inside the book. And from here the game pretty much begins. The kitty litter has started taking over control of each world, and it's up to Lucky to go through each world collecting enough clovers to then beat the world's boss and restore peace to that land. At the start of each world you'll get a note from your sister giving you a brief rundown of what to expect, and then immediately after you'll meet the boss of that world. They'll basically mock you for a while and then explain what they've done to tamper with this world, as requested by the leader of the group, Jinx. And in an attempt to try and stop you from getting any further, they will lock off each level besides the first one, giving you a sense of linear progression towards the final goal. So you pretty much get the gist of the game from the get-go, but before you start the first level you're given a very brief tutorial that gives you an idea on how Lucky controls, and after a few minutes you'll get to turtle this rather basic layout. You can run, you can jump, you can attack and also dig underground, and while that's all fine and dandy, there's one thing I immediately noticed with this game, and I could never get used to it throughout the entire game, and that's the camera controls. They really suck. Normally when you play a platform you'd expect a fixed camera angle that can be used in various ways, more traditionally being either top down or on the side for a 2.5D effect, or with modern titles you'll expect a full 360 camera perspective, where you can rotate the camera as you please. And while this game does mix between some of these styles, for a majority of the levels in this game it's locked between shifting the camera left and right. Once. Meaning you have a middle view and then a slight left and a slight right. It's not often you'll end up rotating the camera anyway, but the game would feel a lot better if it had a 360 camera perspective, especially since this game looks absolutely brilliant. I'd love to be able to get a pan of the full view of the world, but sadly I'm restricted. I can zoom in and look freely, but then again you're just looking at the main camera controls. It's not fully 360 and instead it's just a smooth pan from left to right. But besides that one downside of the control layout, everything else works fine in my eyes. A platformer doesn't require a complex layout of moves and abilities to make the game fun. Instead, what matters is what the game provides and the levels that go alongside them. This game follows a formula similar to games like Crash Bandicoot. Progress through and beat each world and make your way towards the boss. However, to stop this game from being a breeze, each boss stage is locked until you hit a certain requirement, which is this game's focus point. Within each level you'll have a total of 4 clovers to collect, and what these clovers do is allow you to progress through to the next world in the Book of Ages, and also remove the statue that the kitty litter have placed in the hub world as well. Now there's no real end goal to changing these statues, but it's up to you if you want to have a smug kitten or a cute looking fox as the statue of that world. To collect these 4 clovers you'll have to do various tasks in each level which follow the same setup for each level. The first clover is just for playing through the level and beating it, which can vary depending on what the actual objective of that level is. The second clover can be found by finishing a little bonus objective that can either be found by going into a bonus room or finding a challenge clock hidden away in each level. The third clover requires you to find all the letters to spell out Lucky, and finally there's a clover for finding and collecting a total of 300 coins in each level. Now I'm perfectly fine with this setup. It gives you a choice to make the level as challenging or as long as you desire, but I've noticed on several levels in this game you can only just get 300 coins the first time round. Otherwise you'll have to go through and replay the level again, as finding the letter a second time round actually just gives you a bunch of coins anyway. It would have made more sense if they could do this the first time round, but sometimes you just have to go through and replay it again. Also, if you replay a level to find a specific clover, it's worth noting that you'll have to complete the entire level again. So make sure you check every nook and cranny the first time round, because some levels can take a while. So once you've finished the first level you'll be thrown back into the hub world, and upon returning the next level will be available for you to progress progress through. But not only that, part of the overworld will actually be unlocked, giving you more things to do. Sometimes it can be rather simple by just adding an NPC you can talk to or a place to collect more coins, which is a good thing as there's actually a reason to collect them. In each world you'll find a clothes vendor where you can buy new cosmetics for Lucky to wear, with a new suit being available to buy after unlocking each world. These are pretty basic cosmetic changes, but they're rather pricey. Now normally I'd be against this because grinding is just grinding, but I think it's worth it in this game because Lucky just looks adorable in all of them. But that's not all you unlock in the hub worlds. In each of the 4 hub worlds you'll eventually unlock some bonus levels that come in 3 different varieties. The first being a sliding puzzle that starts off really easy, but by the end of the game, especially the last 2, I had my head scratching for a while. And the DLC puzzles for this kind of level took me way longer than I'm proud to admit. As for the other 2 bonus stages, one's a non-stop running minigame where you just have to either dig or jump over obstacles. They're pretty basic, but I quite enjoy them. And then finally there's a minigame where one of the cats shrinks down Lucky and you've got to collect all these coins while being in a ball, with the only means of movement being by tilting the board around to move Lucky about. Honestly, out of the 3 minigames I found this one to be the most enjoyable, but sadly there's not many of these bonus levels in the base game. As for the 4 worlds you'll encounter though in the base game, you'll start off in a forest-like realm helping some totem figures restore balance and order, then you'll move over to helping some farmer workers taking down machines. After that you'll go off to a canyon where you'll be helping yetis with wrapping presents. Right. Yeah, I'm a little lost for that one too, especially yetis being in a desert canyon. But finally, and best of all, you get to go to a spooky carnival and most of the guests are just adorable little ghosts and they just look so happy. I love it. This game is just adorable on so many different levels, it's great. Throughout the game's levels though, you'll go through various different objectives which try to keep the game from being repetitive. There's a couple of levels where you'll have to carry a certain item from one point to another, or activate a certain event, or use a light to light up the path so you can see where you're going. And then some levels may include certain objectives like breaking a few switches to start a concert or destroying a machine upon request of a farmer. I think it's a common theme with this game that everything feels really basic and rather easy, but it's a platformer. What do you expect? I mean, look at this. This is obviously aimed at a younger audience. Hell, even the bosses are pathetically easy, but that doesn't make it a bad thing. Speaking of the bosses though, each boss roughly has 3 life points and they're just repeated sequences each time round, adding more to the attack pattern or just speeding up the fight. The idea for the bosses is just to clear the way before encountering the leader of the group, Jinx. After beating the 3 bosses, the final boss just ends up bailing and then Jinx will take her place, and once again, yeah, he's rather easy. There's not really a lot of praise with the boss stages besides the design of the characters. The art style in this game is just adorable on its own right anyway, but some of these characters are just too cute for words. I mean, just look at him. He has no idea what's going on, but he's having the best time of his life. As for completing the game though, well, upon beating Jinx, Lucky will then leave the book and be titled the Guardian of the Book of Ages. And then that's really it. Yeah, the story isn't really the strong part of this game, but if you're like me and you're craving a little bit more, there were 2 more DLCs for this game and I actually consider both worth your time and value. The first DLC takes you to Gilly Island, a new world for you to explore with a bunch of new levels and challenges, and a final encounter with the cat who bailed from the main game. She's released this new album has brainwashed everyone on the island, so you need to go through and beat each level and follow their plans. As for her boss fight though, it definitely falls into being rather basic, and I didn't really expect anything from this one, but it was quite fun nonetheless. But what I was surprised by however is the second DLC, the Guardian Trials. The story here is that Lucky has now got to prove his rank of Guardian, so your sister has gathered help from 3 other people to throw you at various trials before you can reach the ultimate goal. And for a DLC, this is rather big. The challenges are split up into 3 different categories: boss fights, puzzles, and then finally a standard type level as well. These bosses though will see you fighting through a few of the bosses from the main game, but this time round they're robots and they have new attack patterns, intending to make the boss fight harder than the base game. And you know what, for once these were actually challenging. It's still pretty formulaic, but they throw more at you this time round at a faster pace, giving you less time to think about where you can jump to. And after beating all the bosses you'll get 1 more level facing against 4 waves of enemies, and after beating that you'll get one of the 3 trophies. So next I thought why not check out the puzzles, and immediately I was expecting more of those statue levels like in the base game. But instead it was an unholy amount of those ball puzzles. Okay, I know I said earlier I wanted more of these, but bloody hell there are too many in this DLC, and some of them are just unforgiving. You're either falling off the side all the time or getting stuck in spikes and then just dying. I ended up getting familiar with some of these levels a bit too much because I spent so much time trying to beat them. And then finally there's the platforming levels, and instead of being themed against the hub world, you're into a more retro-like setup. Throughout the various levels provided, you'll actually have different challenges to go through, with the main goal just being to get to the end. How you get there though is a little bit different. Some levels will have you working with a standard format, just jumping your way from point A to point might be, while others will have little gimmicks like being underground all the time, an auto-run segment, and then the light mechanic from the main game and a couple more. But overall, beating all the levels and collecting all the free trophies was actually pretty fun and worth it. Once you beat them though, you get a little cutscene where everybody just congratulates Lucky for becoming a Guardian, and then he earns his title. And yeah, it's a pretty weak ending, but the content from this DLC themselves are actually well worth the value. There's enough here to get a decent amount of time out of it, and with each DLC, they added a couple more cosmetic sets as well. But with the Trials DLC, there was actually an extra secret set as well. In each level you have to find a hot dog, and upon collecting all of them, the store will have one more set for you to buy. Which you'd like to think is a hot dog suit, but sadly not. It's hot dog related, but it's not what I wanted. It's quite sad really. So Super Lucky's Tale is a pretty short and sweet game, but it's very basic for what it is, so if you're looking for something more challenging, then yeah, this game isn't for you. But if you're like me and just want to have fun with something for a change and not stress about having to get all the achievements and so on, then yeah, this is a perfect game for it. It's so short and sweet, but what you get out of it for what the price is, it's definitely worth giving a look. So if you like fluffy animals and you like platformers, then Super Lucky Tale is definitely a game for you. But as always, thank you all so much for watching. My name is Sir Crackerbulb, and I hope you have a cracking week. Goodbye. Also, I chose the worst controller for this because this is an Xbox One game. This isn't wireless, so this whole thing is fucking pointless.